And okay, I can record now. I guess you guys can see my screen now. Once, can you see my screen? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. We had a little bit technical issue this evening, which never happened before. Once again, welcome everybody for tonight's session. Before I transfer the screen to Yunji, let me go through a few things first. PASS Summit 2016, you can still register for the meeting and use our chapter discount code VC15QVS7 for $150 discount. This meeting is in October, I'm sorry. You're welcome to join PASS virtual chapters by visiting the circlepass.org/VC. And we have many different chapters focused on different topics. Our virtual chapter is called Saturday Night SQL. You can see on at the bottom on the right corner. The difference between our virtual chapter and the rest of other ones are that we have not only speaker-led discussion but also open forum so that everybody can ask questions, and whoever knows the topic can feel free to answer. And we open channels so that you can interact directly with the speakers or among the audience. So you are more than welcome to join our virtual chapter. Because this is end of July, so pretty much all the events are gone, and so I'm not gonna go through that. But our future chapter meetings are listed here. Tonight is Yunji's talk about real-world implementation of continuous integration for SSAS. After Yoon's talk, we are going to have about 20 to 30 minutes of open forum discussion. You are welcome to bring your questions to here. Your questions may or may not be related to the topic presented here. And in August, Mickey Stewie will come back and present Silent Killers Lurking in Your Schema. This is a very good presentation. I really encourage you to attend. You can learn a lot about database and database schemas and those little creatures. In September, Simon will come back and present build ETL efficiently with minimal logging. And he's a DBA like him. I really like his presentation. And in October, Peter Liu will come back and present what's new in SQL Server 2016 for SQL developers, and I'm really looking forward to that. Volunteering opportunities. PASS is pretty much run by volunteers. I'm volunteer. All of our virtual chapter speakers are volunteers. I really appreciate all of them come here on their Saturday night to present and share their knowledge with us. Thank you so much, Yoon. And if any of you would be interested in volunteering, you can visit volunteer.sqlpass.org and find the local opportunities. Stay involved. PASS membership is free, completely free. You can join Passage anytime by visit their the website. Is www.sqlpass.org, and our virtual chapter website is Saturday Night SQL .sqlpass.org. We also have a Twitter handle, which is @night _night_SQL. The Twitter is maintained by our virtual chapter co-organizer Debbie. Last, if you would like to ask questions during session, you're welcome to raise your hand, and Debbie will unmute you. If your background is noisy, after you answer, you have your question asked, please unmute yourself. Also, if you don't like to ask your question directly, you can always type your questions in the question window. It says chat. Yeah, you can always type your question there, and we will ask the questions on your behalf. All right. Without further ado, I'm gonna transfer the screen to Yung. Give me a second. Okay, we can see your screen now, Yung. And thank you so much for coming here on Saturday night to share your knowledge with us.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Young. Today's topic is real-world implementation of continuous integration for SSAS. I'm going to use this little mind map app to do a presentation. So before I go to instruction, I'm going to explain what's involved in implementing this. First, you need to understand what continuous integration is, and then also you need to put everything in source control, and then you need to think how you are going to set up your environment, like whether you need a testing environment, QA environment, like that. And also, since you are deploying to multiple environments, you need to think and plan how you are going to manage your configurations. Once you have that is ready, then you can move on to actual automation part, like how you are going to create a build, deploy, and test. Once you have that pieces ready, then you need some tool to orchestrate that. If you combine those everything, then now you have your continuous integration system. Okay, let's get started. So little introduction about me. I'm a guy who likes database a lot, and also ping pong. Whenever I have a spare time, I usually play ping pong, and I also participate in like tournament games. Before I get started, I'd like to know what your knowledge level is for this. But Sarah told me that it's really hard to get feedback from you guys. So I'll assume that you don't have like much knowledge on continuous integration, and I will proceed my presentation. So first thing you need to know is what continuous integration is. I'm going to call it CI from now on. So continuous integration, I think the key thing that you need to remember is it's a practice, not a tool. So you don't need any tool set to have CI in place in your environment. So if I look at the definition, is development practice that requires developers to integrate code into shared repository several times a day. By doing this, we'd like to achieve these 4 things. All the build outputs are in working condition. We want to be able to guarantee that all the build outputs are in working condition. So it's ready to be deployed. And also involve everyone in this practice. So like I'm a DBA, I only involved in the very last piece of the actual deployment line. But in continuous integration, it's not. Anyone who can fix any broken piece of the build, they need to jump in and fix it. Otherwise, your continuous integration system is not is reliable, and also eventually everyone will get rid of abandon to give up to use that CI system. So it's really important. And also through this multiple like continuous cycles, the goal is to get fast feedback. One of the saying that I really like is, if you have a pain, you should do it more frequent. If it is painful, do it more frequently, and get it more earlier. So the whole goal of doing this is, instead of like waiting for like a week or 2, you just build and test multiple times a day, and then have your code tested and put it in a working condition. That's really important. To make this happen, it's really beneficial if you automate this process. But as I told you, you don't have to, like, even though a person is doing each part of the job, if it is going, then you have continuous integration system. But no one wants to do it manually, right? So you are going to, you want to have an automated process. To understand more, I highly recommend you to read this book called Continuous Delivery. When I first decided to implement continuous integration system, I studied this book with my team members, and it really helped me a lot. And the definition and the goals are from this book. Also, there's good is Nan-Ngo. He created 4 pages of drawings that explains the contents of this book. If you are running out of time, I think you can just take a look at his visualization first, and then read this book. Okay, so now environment. I'm not going to cover like how you need to configure environment deeply, because it's not the focus of this talk. But the reason that I put this in as a topic is like in normal CI environment, they usually have their their pipelines. So they have multiple targets that they need to deploy. Like in this example, developers develop from their local dev machine, and then they deploy that to integrated testing environment, and then once that's passed, it will go to QA, and then staging, and then eventually it will deploy to production. So, and also when you define your environment, you also need to define how you're going to refresh your environment, including all the web servers, especially for database, how you're going to generate data. Some people generate data using a data population tool. Some people generate data using production backup. So you need to consider that. Just keep in mind that you need to deploy your code to multiple environments. So there are three prerequisites to when you want to create continuous integration environment. First, everything needs to be version controlled, everything. And then also you need to get agreement from all the team members. And then you need to automate as much as possible. There are really three components that you need to prepare before you get started. So in my demo environment, I'm using TFS to source control, but any source control system you can use. So the everything is literally everything that can change, that need to be in source control. From there, you can. The goal is you should be able to build your environment from the scratch. So configuration, because you need to deploy the code to multiple environments, you need to manage configurations. For example, you want to let's say you have SSAS cube that connects to data warehouse, but that data warehouse exists in testing environment and also in production environment, right? Those will be on separate servers. Then when you deploy your code, you don't want to manually change it. So somehow you want to make that change is happening during the deployment, right? To do that, you need some place to manage that information. So in my demo environment, I created a user database called CMDB. Show you this. So this database only contains three tables: environment, variable, and the mapping between environment. So using this information, I'm dynamically change these values like server names based upon the target environment that I'm deploying to. So yeah, as I told you, this database, like when I pull the information from this CMDB, I'm using environment as a input and get all the variables related with that environment and give that information to the deployment script and tool. So reason that I'm doing is really easy to manage because it's, every information is stored in a single location. But in also then you may have like question, how do I manage sensitive data, right? So for that, I think the best option is to use group managed service account. Does everyone know about group managed service account? So it's like a domain account managed by the domain controller. So you don't have to change password. Domain controller will change password automatically based upon your policy. And also using a group managed service account, no one can log into the server. So it's very secure. And if you use a group managed service account, you don't need any like password stored in the database, CM database. It's very useful. And but even though you're using group managed service account, sometimes you need to store password or any sensitive data. In that case, you may consider using TDE, or if you're in 2016, then you can use always encrypted to do that. Or some companies are using enterprise password management system. So during the deployment, you can make an API call to the password management system and get password from it. That's one option. Okay, so I explained the basic concepts. Now I'm going to dig into the SSAS. So like when you want to build SSAS, I think first thing that many people think is like MS build, because it's widely used and it's MS product. So if you want to create a build using MS build, but unfortunately MS build doesn't support, doesn't recognize the format of SSAS project. So another option is you can use Visual Studio executable, dev-env. It also provides a command line interface. So using dev-env, you can compile your SSAS project. So to be able to use it, you need to have Visual Studio, and also you need to, on Visual Studio, you need to install SSDT, SSDT Business Intelligence add-on. If you install this, then you can create SSAS project from Visual Studio. If you create a project for analysis service, is creating, if you're creating multidimensional project, the extension for the project is DWPROJ. And if you create tabular, then the extension is SM project. So when you then, like, after that, you also need to figure out how you can call that from the command line. This is the command that you can use. Let me show you Okay. So in my setup, I have SSAS project called sales on the sales folder. So using command line, I'm going to build. So to do that, I just call dev-env and then SSAS project name /build with build configuration. Okay. So I'm going to use this one to call it. If I run it, oh, okay, sorry, I need to change the directory first. As you can see, there are two folders being generated. In the bin folder, it contains 4 outputs. Using this, you can deploy to your target server. So the build output is different depending on your model you're choosing. In my demo, I'm only using multi-dimensional model. So from here, it's generating 4 files, and AS database is the definition. It contains the definition, and also the this deployment option contains like the behaviors of deployment. Like after the deployment, do you want to process it or not? It's controlled by this file. And then deployment target contains the target you want to deploy to. Tabular has the similar information and similar files.
Sorry about that. Sorry about the noise. I just trying to make somebody.
Okay. Okay. Seems like something's not right with me. Yeah, I'm going to use Zoom because the presentation mode is not working quite well. So when you want to, next thing, since you have a build output, now you need to figure out how to deploy your build. To do that, you can use SSAS deployment widget. Input for those widgets are those 4 files that's been generated by the build. But when you deploy using deployment widget, there are 2 options. One is deploy directly to the server. Another option is generate XLMA file. So using this XMLA is just XML syntax that you use to manage your SSAS. Using XLMA, you can create partition, like most of the stuff that you want to do through the UI, you can do using XLMA syntax. So if you use /O option, it's going to generate XMLA instead of deploying those SSAS project to the target server. When it's doing that, it's not connecting to the database. It just generates output and put all the information in a single file in XML format. So as I told you, in continuous integration environment, or in your environment, you have multiple targets: dev, staging, QA, testing, right? When you want to deploy this to the target, you need to change the information, right? So to do that, one option is go to this manage deployment target file and change. That's one option. Or you can just generate XLMA file and then deploy that file using invoke ASCMD, PowerShell codelet. Using this, when you are calling this, you can define the target server using /s option. Let me show you. So this is how you deploy to the target defined in a deployment target file. So it's defined to deploy to a local host. Okay. In this setting, right? Then if you run this command, it's going to deploy this to the local host. Then another option is to generate XMLA file using this D and O option. Okay. Going to copy. Second, I need to change it to bin directory. And then right. Okay, if I run it, it's creating this XML file. If I open it from it's just file in XML format that ASCMD is recognizing. Okay. So if you have this file, then it's easy to manipulate. Like besides the target server, you also need to change the connection name in the connection string in the SSAS project. Right? When you when you deploy this project, SSAS project, to the dev environment, it should connect to the dev EDW server or dev one of the dev DB servers to pull the information and generate queue. That information can be changed in this XML file. So if you don't do that, that connection string information is in multiple places. If you check these 4 files, there are like 3 places that contains that connection string information. So instead of modifying that from those multiple files, I decide to change it from single file, which is XMLA file. So, but even though I didn't change it, I'm going to explain how I change it. But also, when you want to deploy XMLA, you can just use invoke ASCMD and put that XMLA as input, and then you can define target server from here. It's the return output from ASCMD is also in XML format. And then if the result doesn't contain any error or warning, then it means success. So now you deployed SSAS project to your local machine, actually the dev ENV server and WinDev server. So this is my plan, right? Get the list of AS project that I'm going to deploy, and then build using dev env. Then it will create these 4 files as an output. And also, I forgot to mention, but one of the requirements when I implement this was we want to be able to use same deployment option for all the SSAS projects. To do that, I'm just creating a file called release deployment options file and put it into the root of the SSAS project. And then I just replace this file before I generate XMLA file. That way I can ensure that all the SSAS project will have the same deployment option. Once I have XMLA, I read that file using PowerShell and replace the data source to the proper target, and then save it and deploy using ASCMD. That's the flow that I created. Okay. So after the deployment, you also need to think about the testing. To do the testing, NBI is really good tool because it's in XML format. You don't need C# or Visual Studio to generate test scenario. You just create XML file, then you have your test scenario, and you can run it through NUnit console or NUnit GUI. One of the benefits of using it is also it has auto generation feature. NBI toolset contains GenBI and also GenBL. Using that, you can auto generate your test scenario for multiple projects. But also, since it is an XML file, you can generate using your scripting, like using PowerShell or XML, the SQL, even SQL, with SQL, you can generate XML, right? So as long as you have a mean to create XML file, then you can automate your process. Let me explain more about this NBI. So under SSAS project, I have folder called unit test. So to use NBI, you need to install NUnit and .NET Framework. After that, you download NBI project. From NBI project, you need to just copy these 3 folders. That's it. Then create a folder for your project. In my in the project, you need to create 3 files: config, nbit, and NUnit. And those 2 XMLs are output of the test. So if you open this, if you look at it, it's quite easy to understand. So what it does is it's running the MDX query to Cube, and also it's running just SQL and compare to result. This is my test scenario. Then when you want to run it, as I mentioned, you can use it already loaded. So you can just run the test. Save. Also, you can do the same thing using command line interface. So now we have everything, right? Now we know where to put our configuration and how to create a build, how to deploy, how to create test and run the test using command line. So once you have that, then you need something to orchestrate, something to coordinate this. So to do that, there are build tools and also continuous integration tools. In my demo, I'm using Jenkins as a continuous integration tool. So before continuous integration tools exist, we used build tools. Build tools are kind of scripting language that let you create dependency and also like minimal tasks like copy files, read files through the script format that they defined. One of the most popular build tool is MS Build. So MS Build, you can think of it as a scripting language in XML format. And in that scripting language, you can define dependencies. This is sample MS Build script. So in the MS Build script, you define variables called property groups, and then you also define targets, which is you can think it as function. Like you can create function like build SSAS, deploy SSAS, that each can be a function and target, and then you can set dependencies between them using like these formats. So in this case, this build SSAS will be executed after read SSAS project list from file has been. And also, even in, as I mentioned, in this build script, you can just search these GW project files and put that into a variable and use it to loop through. Okay, so it's just like scripting language in XML format. Okay, but like even though it's in simple XML format, to be able to use it well, you need to learn, you need to study, right? So to minimize that effort, there is a PowerShell version of build tool called Hisake. Is written in PowerShell. So except the dependency setting part, for other logics, you can just use native PowerShell. It's much convenient for the people who already know PowerShell. So very similar format. It has variable, you can declare a variable, and then in MS Build we call targets. In Hisake, we call it task, and you can define dependencies as well. And for other logics, as I mentioned, is using just normal PowerShell script. So MS Build, Hisake is just command line utility, command line script, right? But you need something that's tightly integrated with source control and also have web interface, permission control, right? So for that, there are CI tools. Jenkins is one of the popular tools that people are using because it's free and also has a lot of good plugins that you can use. So using Jenkins, you can make Jenkins do what the build server used to do. And also Jenkins has really tight integration with source control systems. So like you can set Jenkins, create, build, and deploy whenever there's a check-in, or you can schedule it. It's very easy to do that. And one of the powerful features of Jenkins is it can expose variables to the script that you're using. So in Jenkins, you can declare like variables. Once you have that variable, like you in your like Jenkins project steps, whether you are using PowerShell, Windows command line, any languages, you don't have to worry about declaring the variables because Jenkins is already making that variable available to the script. So you can just reference that from the script. And using Jenkins, you can create workflow. You can set dependencies. You can create multiple steps within a single job. And as I mentioned, it has a lot of good plugins. So it's all matter of choosing the right plugin and implement the right solution. Let's take a close look at Jenkins. So this is Jenkins. As I mentioned, is a web interface with permission control and other a lot of features that you can use. In Jenkins, when you want to do something, you create a job, a project. In the project, okay, let me show this. Okay, you create a project, you can configure it. So it has a general section which defines project name and log retention, and there's source control management section. In source control management section, what you need to do is just provide your source control management system's URL, then project path, and the account that you're going to use to access that. Then you can, as I mentioned, you can set it to build periodically or whenever there's a change in the source control. And then you can also set build environment settings. So whenever Jenkins is running this project, it's checking out all the source code from the path that you defined in the source control management section to its working space. That's called workspace. From there, it's generating. And then you do actual build. And then you can define post actions like send email to certain people when build fails to something like that. And also in the build, you can define dependencies. Like whenever it build succeeded or failed, you can call something else. Like build other projects. Yeah. Depending on, these can be changed depending on what kind of plugin you installed to your Jenkins server. Okay. So in my example, I talked to you about two things, right? Build tool and CI tool. Actually, in Jenkins, let's see. In Jenkins, you can create multiple steps. Each command, this box is step. You can define multiple steps. So in Jenkins, you can create a step that create a build, also another step that deploy, another step that does the testing. That's one option. Or in my implementation, what I did is I used Pisake to handle that part and use Jenkins only to trigger Pisake script, which is PowerShell script. It's more of your choice how you want to implement this, but in my opinion, this way is much easier to manage because you don't have to deal with these things from the UI. It's just single script that checked into the source control. Okay. So let's go to my demo project. So in my demo project, this demo DB is the main project. Under this project, there's folder called build. In build, I have multiple scripts that I'm using to deploy. My first implementation, I used MS build script to coordinate this. And when I prepare this, I switch it to Pisake. And this is the main file that is handling the main logic. So let's take a close look at this. Okay. So to use Pisake, you need to import the Pisake module. Okay. And then I also have another PowerShell script that I created to simplify this project. I mean, simplify the deployment. So all the logics of creating, build, replacing data source those logics are in this PowerShell script. I'm just calling this from this Pisake script. So here I'm declaring the like variables. The reason that I hard-coded this CMDB information is it doesn't change because, as I mentioned, this is one location that controls everything. And all the configurations will be stored in this server, and this server needs to be available all the time. And then this is how you reference the environment variable from Jenkins. So by default, Jenkins is exposing certain number of environment variables to the script. However, you can expose yours through the plugin. And then, okay, this is for the SSAS executables like dev-env and the deployment wizard. Okay. And this is for the unit testing console information. Okay. So here, the first thing is calling is check environment. It's checking the existence of executables that I need to process. And then it's getting the SSAS project list that I need to deploy, save it to a file called projects.txt. And then it just root through that list and run the dev-env command. After that is deploying, but when it's deploying, it's generating XMLA and then it's calling this, right? So this, in this logic, I'm just read XML file, look for the data source part, and replace with the right name that I need to use. to do that, I'm using this. So what this PowerShell does is connecting to the CMDB and generate the variable and variable value list and save it as environment name.properties file. And there's Jenkins plugin called injector. What it does is it injects the variables in this file and make it as environment variable. That way, all the variables that I define in the CMDB will be available to the scripts executed after this. So from my from this deployment script, that I can get the right server information from the environment variable. That's what I'm doing. And then this is the part that's running the test using an unit. So once, yeah, and also here I defined dependencies. So this test SSAS project depends on deploy SSAS, which means it will run after deploy SSAS project is running. So it goes all the way up to check environment. So it's running in the order that I defined. Okay, so those logics are handled in this Pisake script instead of creating multiple steps in the Jenkins job. But in the Jenkins job, I'm doing this. So the unit test result can be exposed to Jenkins UI using this NUnit plugin. If you take a look at it, it shows this test result, the test trend, and then if you go to this double click, then you can see the details of this test. So I'm going to run a demo by just running this. And if you click this, it will show the output progress. So this part shows that it generated development.properties file, which contains all the configuration variables for development environment. Okay. After that, this injector is injecting those variables to the Jenkins. Now those variables are available to these servers, these scripts. Okay, I'm running this on my VM, and maybe the resource wasn't enough. So yeah, after that is doing the things that's defined in Pisake. Okay. Just do that, and there are 2 projects. finance and sales. It deployed both of them. Then run a unit test. Then yeah, it's generating an unit test result. And I also installed another plugin that generates HTML report and unit test result in HTML format. Okay. So to check this, you can check this result in HTML format. Okay, I think I'm done with my presentation. If you have any questions, I think you can answer.
Hey, Young, thank you so much for your presentation. I saw this one question over here. I don't know if you can see it.
I cannot see it. Let me see. Is it on chat window?
Yeah, just a second. Let me see if the lady is unmuted. Regina,
Yes.
do you mind to read out your question to Yong?
Oh yeah, sure. Give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Actually, my question is about the Lava store, because the question is because in our company we use we use BF, and it's not installed in our marketing departments. The IT is controlled. And now we want to use reporting tools. We don't want to use SSAS reporting tool, but we want to use Lava stores to create something like that for the report purpose. And so my question is, because I don't know about the Lava stores, the companies. So I want to know if you could you please provide me some information about the Lava stores, about, for example, what is the life cycle or the integration with other system and applications, and also because sometimes the end user is a lot of, maybe, I don't know, sometimes it's only maybe sometimes has a lot of. So I want to know in this case what is the scalabilities. And also, for example, I know like for the tableaus, for example, normally the backend, the IT always need to prepare the data. So for the Lava store, if used for reporting purpose, who will prepare the data? And also, do we need the IT support? So in this case, it's easy if don't need the IT support, and so it's easy for us to maintain. And also, I also have a question. For example, like the SSIs for reporting, we can publish the reports to like the report server, SharePoint, or the other applications. I'm not sure for the Lava store it's easy to where to publish the reports also. Like yeah, if you know some feature like the visualization, and also if it is a real-time and analytic, and also maybe do they have the feature like the mobiles applications, mobiles something, yeah. Yeah, this is yeah generous. Yeah, my questions. Or do you know some? He also has some limitations. Something starts because we maybe in 2 weeks we will have the meeting with them to talk about to know more information about the Lava stores. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I have no experience with Lava store that you mentioned, but in my environment, I'm using Tabular. I expect it will be very similar as Tabular. If that's the case, then yeah, Lava Storm, I don't know. I haven't used it. But Tabular, if you use Tabular, I expect it will be the same, similar. Then, like for Tabular, users can create their own query and access data, or you can prepare like queue or environment users can play with. And Tabular doesn't have like a well-defined deployment lifecycle management. But if you want, you can create some deployment process for that. And Tableau also have dashboard where users can publish their reports.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, about Tableau. Yeah, I'm familiar about Tableau and SSI.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know about the Lava Stores products. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what LavaStorm is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any question about SSAS deployment?
If you mean, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this one says any tool used to monitor the SSAS connection session command memory usage. I'm gonna unmute you so that you can go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Yong, I have a question about, is there any special tool you would normally use to monitor like tabular model? Sometimes, for example, to monitor the memory usage, and also if the any DAX query runs very slow and you would like to check why, and so basically monitor the how the SSS servers the status.
Actually, in my environment, we're using only multidimensional, so I don't have information on how to monitor tabular servers. Yeah, but I'll, if you provide your information, I'll ask my friends and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Then is there any special tool you use to monitor the multidimensional?
I'm just using regular monitoring tools, but that doesn't have like special features for the SSAS. In my environment, I'm using Ignite to monitor the DB servers, but that doesn't support SSAS. So for SSAS, I'm just using for the server itself, I'm using OS monitoring tools. And
sorry, I'm not following
you.
Sorry, I didn't really understand what you just mentioned. Could you please say again? Hello?
Hey, Young, we couldn't hear you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you. Did you hear Yi's question?
Now we can.
Now we can hear you now.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
lost your last sentence. You said it for multidimensional. Normally you use.
Oh, so what I said was we don't have any. I don't have any special tool to monitor SSAS. I just use OS monitoring tool and queries. That's it.
So you don't have third party tool to monitor the server, right?
No, I don't have any third-party monitoring tool for SSAS.
Okay. Any questions for Yong? All right. If we don't have any additional questions, just a second. Okay. If we don't have any additional question for Yong, we're gonna start our open forum session, and anybody has questions regarding to data management, even job hunting or career development, anything, please either raise your hand to ask a question, or you can type your questions in the chat window. I'll ask the audience, whoever would like to answer, please raise your hand so I can unmute you. I guess we have one question from Li Ping. Just a second, let me find you. Okay, you are muted. She says, I guess it's a she. How is the job market now? I don't know if you're familiar with it, about job market, SSAS, or just BI in general?
BI engineer, I think is pretty hard these days. Like there are a lot of there are many need for the data visualization specialists. So I think it's pretty. There are like many openings if you can like create like full stack, like generate data and create a report out of it. Even in like company, there are like openings, and there are many companies that's looking for like specialists in that area.
Cool. Oh, I have a quick question. Do you?
Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. If you have a question, you can go ahead and ask. Also, feel free to raise your hand so I can find you easily.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you very much. And right now, I'm majoring in computer science, but I'm really interested in the data. And what do you have any advices for me? And or how can I prepare well from now? Thank you.
I I think the hottest market in these days are the data scientists and the big data part. So if you can focus on that area, I think there are a lot of demand. So like you can start with the big data like developer or like data analyst, and then like data visualization specialist, or you can be data scientist. Like depending on what path you want to go, but that's the hottest market in the database world, data world, I'd say.
Do you think I need to also like attend some boot camp to prepare well, or I just need to like prepare by myself and learn some skill sets?
I think that's I can give you just general advice, but in my case, I usually enroll for like at least for the online course or certificate courses. Like MS recently we launched the beta version of data scientist certificate course. You can try it. There are many other like companies that's providing that. I think as a person who wants to be in that area, I think it's having certificate doesn't mean that you can do everything, but at least you give effort to it, and it's a really good mean to show your effort to the interviewer. So yeah, I recommend taking courses.
Taking courses?
Right, taking like there are like many courses for data scientist certificate. So I highly recommend those courses to you.
Oh, really? Do you have any like special preference or recommendation? Because there's a lot of I don't know like which one would be good or which one would be
yeah, I think one from the Cloudera or one from Microsoft will be I think those will be good.
Good. Okay, I will try that one. And as your turn, is this email address your email address or?
Yeah, that's my personal email address.
KULMAM92@gmail.com.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, we do really appreciate for your instructions and now, and also really appreciate for the organization. For this one, we do have more clear pictures for that, because formerly we were just so confused, too much titles and too much content, and we sometimes I just don't know like what's the difference between them and what is what, how to distinguish them. So, but right now, you gave me some clues, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you also have a link here?
Yes. Same email address.
Oh, same. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions?
I have a question. At the beginning part of your talk, you mentioned the usage of the importance of continuous integration. Can you give more information about that part? Like why we need continuous integration? What is the advantage?
Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay. Let me go back to. I prepared two. One with PowerPoint, one with mind map. Anyway, so the advantage of having continuous integration is you can guarantee that your source code is ready and it's in working condition at a given time. That's the real benefit. Like each developers, they just develop from their local, right? But once they push to the system, they can tell that it's in working condition. If it's not, then anyone who can fix it need to jump in and fix it. That's the whole purpose of it. So through that, you can have a fast feedback cycle. You can get rid of bug as soon as possible. All the potential issues that you might have when you have long development cycle and build cycle can be removed with continuous integration. That's the main benefit of it.
So usually we do dev, QA, and UAT and prod separately, one by one. So in continuous integration, you mean like we do the same development for all the environments. So how about the quality control? Like we do the any new development that the code will be ready for production at the same time, right? So
go ahead.
How can we make sure that if it's premature condition, and we want to hold it, we don't want to push to production, right? So I'm kind of confused here.
Okay, I totally understand that. There's continuous delivery and continuous integration. Continuous delivery means every code that you're making will be delivered to the production or to the target. So continuous integration is make sure it's in ready status, working status. There's some distinction, and also in the environment setup, you are not just deploying directly to the production. You have multiple environments to catch your issues. In my example, there was integrated testing environment, and also there's QA environment, right? So instead of people or QA people are waiting devs to, they just go to the Jenkins and deploy their artifacts or build outputs to QA environment and do the QA testing. Also, many of the testing should be done through automated testing process. So when you have continuous integration, once you set this up, it's not the end. You have to improve it continuously and also maintain it continuously. Tests can be outdated. You shouldn't leave any test outdated. Everyone needs to jump in and fix that test. And through that practice, you can guarantee that is ready for the production.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm clear. Thank you.
So, Yong, is your slides gonna be available for us?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Yong?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you, but it seems like you can't hear me.
Oh, I can hear now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering if your slides will be available.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I'm going to share both this PowerPoint and the mind map.
Okay. So if it's okay with you, I'm gonna post it on our website. But if yeah, if not, maybe you can send a link or something. I can share the link on our website.
Yeah, I can send you the files. It's okay.
Okay, cool. if nobody has additional questions for Yong's presentation, I'm gonna ask a few more questions about well, somebody asked. She's not able to attend tonight, but I'm gonna ask on her behalf. Well, the two areas. One is the indexing. When we do ETL for indexing and primary key and foreign key, do we need? What would you recommend, Yong? This is for you or anybody who has experience in this area. So when you do ETL, say like you use SSRS, for example, would you drop primary key, foreign key, and index no matter, well, non-cluster index but prior to the ETL, then rebuild it, or you just disable the index and enable it?
Okay, for that, I think first, if I'm that person, I'll check how many records are being changed. Depending on that, I could use different approaches. So if it's like the number of change records is really big, and also the most of the data is changed, in that case, I usually create another table with different name, load data, create index and constraints, and rename and drop old one. That's the approach that I usually use. Or if that table is partitioned, then I create the new table for the target partition. Sometimes by combining the existing data from the partition and then create a new table, do the swap.
Can you elaborate again? I'm sorry. So if it's a partition, for that particular partition you're updating, do you mean you create a new one? So you build a primary key, foreign key, or index non-cluster or index on that one, then do an ETL and swap?
Yeah. Right. So for partition, here are my bad drawings. So, right, this is the partition table. If you want to change this part, then you ETL to, yeah.
Your
Can you see it?
Yeah, no, your screen is not shown.
Okay. Then okay, then right. Okay. Maybe this one then. Can you see? Can you see this one now?
No. I guess you had to. Yeah. Yes.
Can you see?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay, good. So, okay. So when we have partition, table will be like this, right? And then, so when I need to change this partition, then let's see, change this one too. I create a new table, load data, create index, constraints, and then do the swap. That's the approach for the table that's partitioned. But even with the tables, that doesn't have partition. Depending on like how many records you are changing, if the change is really big, instead of doing like update, delete, insert, I prefer to create a table by combining the existing data and then the new data, create a new table with different name, and then rename this to something old, and then this to the original table, and drop this one. That's the approach I'm using if the number of record is being changed or generated is really big.
So you do not do merge?
Depending on the size, like the merge can generate a lot of log records. So instead of having that overhead, I usually set it to the bulk mode.
Okay.
And then, yeah. I forgot the name. I'm really shocked that I forgot the bulk recovery mode. And then set it to create load data into table and generate indexes.
So you basically build a new table and create those indexes and keys, things like that, right?
Right. If the number of record is the number of record that's being changed is quite big, that's the approach I'm using.
Have you ever run into a situation like you need frequent update of your table, say like you have to run the SSIS package throughout the day frequently, and say like hourly basis? In that case, and you may, well, the table content may or may not be having big changes. What would you consider as the best practice?
In that case, I would suggest use merge for that. Yeah. Also, depending on the workload, if it's impacting your if your merge statement is impacting the service, then you may consider doing it in a batch, maybe processing every 5,000 records at a time and do some kind of looping. There's another approach if that your SSIS package is impacting the performance of your service. But normal cases, I would just use merge to do it.
Cool. Thank you. Well, when you have to, when you have a table that's constantly updating, and also your end users using that table to view the data, say like check the reports, and sometimes you run into the situation that when you try to do DDL and somebody's doing a select, you run into deadlock. And what would you suggest in that kind of scenario? How to resolve it if the other one is like, okay, I'm gonna select and just wait, and on this end, in your DDL is waiting as well.
You mean DDL or DML?
DDL, it's like you truncate.
So adding new columns, change. Excuse me?
Like you truncate the table and reload everything.
I wouldn't do that. In that case, I create a table with different name and load data to that table. Once that's done, rename.
But, well, I guess that I'm trying to describe a deadlocking situation. When it's deadlocked, what's the best practice to handle this?
Yeah, so I guess need to find out why deadlock is happening. Like if your process is blocking user access. So like in the scenario that you mentioned, like when you want, if you want to truncate table and reload data, that I wouldn't do that. I create a new table, load data, and rename. And if you are going to want to update, like maybe 10,000, you need to update 10,000 record to the table that you're just accessing. In that case, instead of doing it at once, I just create a batch processing script that runs, that updates, that changes the data like 5,000 or like 10,000 at once, and put weight so that it doesn't impact user access much.
I see. Good suggestion. Thank you. Well, in that case, when you do batch, how would you handle the indexing and the keys? Do you still drop them? Because that's batch. If you just create and drop, and that's time consuming, correct?
So like in that scenario, I don't expect it would impact the index, because I'm changing data in a like small number of record at a time and put weights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So index and consent will be there as it is. But if you are doing a like big data change, then in that case, yeah, you need to approach it from the, like, I don't expect user will have access to that table unless you populate data on different table and do the swap.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Regina, you have been unmuted if you would like to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask if some people know about the Lava Stores application, the products.
So anybody knows about Lava Storm? You is searching. We can see your screen. So.
Yes.
So Regina, are you using it right now, or you just try to find information about it?
Yeah, maybe we will use this one. Yeah, but because so far we are discussing now.
But why would you pick that out of so many different tools?
I don't know. This is the director's decision because we use SSAS and other like the SharePoint SSAS integration service, but we will use Tableau. But I don't know why not use reporting service.
Looks like it's a big data solution.
Excuse me?
It seems like pretty rare. I guess for those of us who are present right now, probably don't know about it, at least not too familiar with it.
Okay.
Maybe this is a good question for your director and see why he or she wanted to use this as opposed to other ones.
Let we to do the research. So
Yeah, once you find out, feel free to come back and share with us. Then it's a good knowledge. Good to know. All right. Well, we'll let you continue to research on this. I'm gonna, if no more question for you, I'm gonna transfer screen back to me because there are a few questions. I think I'll just show my screen so that it's easier.
thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Can you guys see my screen? All right, so this is the question. Somebody asked about ELK stack. She's wondering any use case on the ELK stack. I guess it means Elasticsearch, Log, Stash, and Kibana. Kibana. Yes, I think that's how it's pronounced. Does anyone know anything about this? Heard about it?
As far as I know, this is very similar as Splunk. Anyone using Splunk?
Yeah, whoever have experience with Splunk, can you raise your hand?
Is Bill here? I know Bill is using it.
Bill?
Uh-huh.
I don't think he's here.
Okay, so yeah, like same concept. It's collecting all the logs to the centralized server, and you can it lets you run a query against your logs, and yeah, based upon the result, you can create your dashboard and alerting, reporting. You can do that. You can do the same with ELK. ELK is free, and Splunk is charged by the bandwidth that's data that's fed to a Splunk server.
Cool. Thank you. Do you by chance know any APIs that it support?
I haven't used ELK but I used Splunk. But since it is open source project, I'm pretty sure there are like many APIs available.
Okay. So the second one, she's talking about site performance tracking. Basically, I guess she's interested to know about the website performance tracking, monitoring, analysis. What are the benefits? Any metrics or tools? Additionally, she was wondering about machine learning on performance metrics and site conversion rate. Do we have any data analysts who are familiar with this topic?
I'm not familiar with the machine learning part, but for the site performance tracking, at my previous company I used a solution called New Relic, and it's collecting the performance data and shows where the bottleneck is. Yeah, New Relic.
So it's collecting performance, is that right?
Yeah, it's collecting performance data. Is like it has server on like somewhere, and you're sending your performance data to the site, and they also check the availability of the site and send alerts. At my previous company, we just create a tool that runs command to the URL and collects data, and if there's a high spike, send alert.
So that runs command through the URL, right?
Yeah, just call URL call and then track the response time from that URL, and if there is we also check the trending, and if there's a high spike, it send alert.
Cool. Oh, alert.
Too many SQL work.
So do you by chance know any metrics or something? So the tool you mentioned here, that's developed in-house, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any similar purpose tool on the market?
I don't know, but like for the metrics part, you can just take a look at like New Relic's website and check what they are providing. From there, you can learn what metrics they are using. I think that would be a good starting point.
Can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't get it. You said URL side or something?
No, I think I recommend that person to check New Relic site and what kind of report and like metrics that they are providing. Then I think from there can start creating his requirement and do more research on the tools.
Okay, makes sense. Sounds good. Does anyone have any more questions? If not, we're gonna stop right now, and then anybody has additional questions after this, please send your question either to us, to our virtual chapter, or send your question directly to Yong if that's for him. All right. We're gonna stop here, and thank you so much